Reading through the Bible in 1 year, December 10th, 2nd Chronicles chapter 10, Revelation chapter 1, Zephaniah 2, and Luke chapter 24. Then Rehoboam, son of Solomon, went to Shechem, for all Israel had gone to Shechem to make him king. When Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard about it, for he was in Egypt where he had fled from King Solomon's presence, Jeroboam returned from Egypt. So they summoned him. Then Jeroboam and all Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam. Your father made our yoke harsh. Therefore, lighten your father's harsh service and the heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you. Rehoboam replied, Return to me in 3 days. So the people left. Then King Rehoboam consulted with the elders who had attended his father Solomon when he was king, or when he was alive, asking, How do you advise me to respond to this people? Well, they replied, If you will be kind to this people and please them by speaking kind words to them, they will be your servants forever. But he rejected the advice of the elders who had advised him, and he consulted with the young men who had grown up with him, the ones attending him. He asked them, What message do you advise we send back to this people who said to me, Lighten the yoke your father has put on us? Then the young men who had grown up with him told him, This is what you should say to those people who said, Your father made our yoke heavy, but you make it lighter on us. This is what you should say to them. My little finger is thicker than my father's waist. Now, therefore, my father burdened you with a heavy yoke, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with barbed whips. Also, in other translations, it's with scorpions. Barbed whips makes way more sense than scorpions. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the 3rd day, just as the king had ordered, saying, Return to me on the 3rd day. Then the king answered them harshly. King Rehoboam rejected the elders' advice and spoke to them according to the young men's advice, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to it. My father disciplined you with whips, but I with barbed whips. The king did not listen to the people because the turn of events came about from God, in order that Yahweh might carry out his word that he had spoken through Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam son of Nebat. When all Israel saw the king had not listened to them, the people answered the king, What portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Israel, each to your own tent. David, look after your own house now. So all Israel went to their tents. But as for the Israelites living in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. King Rehoboam said to Hadoram, who was in charge of the forced labor, sent Hadoram, who was in charge of the forced labor, but the Israelites stoned him to death. However, King Rehoboam managed to get in his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. Israel is in rebellion against the house of David until today. Now, Revelation chapter 1. Since we're in a new book, we're going to read the introduction. The revelation of Jesus Christ, not revelations, revelation, was probably written by the Apostle John while in exile on the island of Patmos, off the coast of present-day Turkey. It was addressed to 7 actual churches. Revelation begins with letters from Christ himself to these churches, letters that include commendation, criticism, and comfort. Then comes a long series of visions of judgment on the wicked, all in highly symbolic language. The church is depicted under great distress, but is assured of the final triumph of Jesus as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, bringing an end to the rebellion of humanity and ushering in a new heaven and a new earth, where God himself will reign forever and ever. Revelation was probably written in AD 95 to 96. Now, I'm going to give the same thing that I always give when it comes to this book. There is a reason why when I do this reading, if you're listening along, this is the time to open up a laptop. You want to watch the screen so you can read the notes. I have two different types of notes that are here. Those in the Reformation Study Bible in the middle and the ESV Study Bible on the right-hand side. The reason I do this is because the Reformation Study Bible gives more of a Reformed perspective on the information we're going through, whereas the ESV Study Bible carries a wider response, or not really a wider response, but it tends to give as many views as possible about any given subject before making any determination. So it's a good way to read through it and to try to find out which one you think makes the most sense. But me, as a Reformed person, I agree with the center one almost entirely. Not all the time, but almost every time. Let's begin. And I will do my best to keep all the notes in here. There are a ton. All right. The revelation of Jesus Christ that God gave him to show his servants what must soon take place. He made it known by sending his angel to his servant John, who testified to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ, whatever he saw. Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep what is written in it, because the time is near. John, to the 7 churches in Asia, grace and peace to you from the one who is, who was, and who is to come, and from the 7 spirits before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler of the kings of the earth. To him who loves us and has set us free from our sin by his blood, and made us a kingdom, to him who loves us and has set us free from our sins by his blood, and made us a kingdom, priests to his God and Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn over him. So it is to be. Amen. I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God, the one who is, who was, and who is to come, the Almighty. I, John, your brother and partner in the affliction, kingdom, and endurance that are in Jesus, was on the island called Patmos because of the word of God and the testimony of Jesus. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and heard a loud voice behind me like a trumpet, saying, write on a scroll what you see, and send it to the 7 churches. I lost my spot. I'm going to get there. The 7 churches: Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And among the lampstands was one like the Son of Man, dressed in a robe and with a golden sash wrapped around his chest. The hair of his head was white as wool, white as snow, and his eyes were like a fiery flame. His feet were like fine bronze when it is fired in a furnace, and his voice like the sound of cascading waters. He had 7 stars in his right hand. A sharp, double-edged sword came from his mouth, and his face was shining like the sun at full strength. When I saw him, I fell at his feet like a dead man. He laid his right hand on me and said, don't be afraid. I am the first and the last, and the living one. I was dead, but look, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. to make sure we don't lose any notes, which we're starting to. So let me keep scrolling here in a second. There we go. Okay. Verse 19. Therefore, write what you have seen, what is, and what will take place after this. The mystery of the 7 stars you saw in my right hand, and of the 7 golden lampstands is this. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. There's all the notes. And now let's move on to Zephaniah chapter 2. Gather yourselves together, gather together, undesirable nation, before the decree takes effect, and the day passes like chaff, before the burning of Yahweh's anger overtakes you, before the day of Yahweh's anger overtakes you. Seek Yahweh, all you humble of the earth, who carry out what he commands. Seek righteousness, seek humility. Perhaps you will be concealed on the day of Yahweh's anger. For Gaza will be abandoned, and Ashkelon will become a ruin. Ashdod will be driven out at noon, and Ekron will be uprooted. Woe, inhabitants of the sea coast, nation of Kerethites, or of the Kerethites. The word of Yahweh is against you. Canaan, land of the Philistines, I will destroy you until there is no one left. The sea coast will become pasture lands, with caves for shepherds and pens for sheep. The coastland will belong to the remnant of the house of Judah. They will find pasture. They will find pasture there. They will lie down in the evening among the houses of Ashkelon. For Yahweh their God will return to them and restore their fortunes. I have heard the taunting of Moab and the insult of the Ammonites, who have taunted my people and threatened their territory. Therefore, as I live, this is the declaration of the Lord of armies, the God of Israel, Moab will be like Sodom, and the Ammonites like Gomorrah, a place overgrown with weeds, a salt pit, a perpetual wasteland. The remnant of my people will plunder them. The remainder of my nation will dispossess them. This is what they get for their pride, because they have taunted and acted arrogantly against the Lord of armies. So against the people of the Lord of armies. Yahweh will be terrifying to them when he starves all the gods of the earth. Then all the distant coasts and the islands of the nations will bow in worship to him, each in its own place. You Cushites will also be slain by the sword. He will also stretch out his hand against the north and destroy Assyria. He will make Nineveh a desolate ruin, dry as the desert. Herds will lie down in the middle of it, every kind of wild animal, both eagle owls and herons, will roost in the capitals of its pillars. Their calls will surround from the window, but devastation will be on the threshold, for he will expose the cedar work. This is the jubilant city that lives in security, that says to herself, I exist and there is no one else. What a desolation she has become. What a place for wild animals to lie down. Everyone who passes by her scoffs and shakes his fist. Now let's conclude with the conclusion of the book of Luke. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, Sunday, they came to the tomb, bringing the spices they had prepared. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb. They went in, but did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly 2 men stood by them in dazzling clothing. So the women were terrified and bowed down to the ground. Why are you looking for the living among the dead? Asked the men. He is not here, but he has risen. Remember how he spoke to you when he was still in Galilee, saying, it is necessary that the Son of Man be betrayed into the hands of sinful men, be crucified, and rise on the third day." And they remembered his words. Returning from the tomb, they reported all these things to the 11 and to all the rest. Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, the mother of James, and the other women were with them, telling the apostles these things. But these words seemed like nonsense to them, and they did not believe the women. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. When he stooped to look in, he saw only the linen cloths. So he went away amazed at what had happened. Now, that same day, two of them were on their way to a village called Emmaus, which is about 7 miles from Jerusalem. Together, they were discussing everything that had taken place. And while they were discussing and arguing, Jesus himself came near and began to walk along with them. But they were prevented from recognizing him. Then he asked them, What is this dispute that you're having with each other as you're walking?" And they stopped walking and looked discouraged. Then one named Cleopas answered him, "Are you the only visitor in Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that have happened there in these days?" "What things?" he asked them. So they said to him, "The things concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, powerful in action and speech before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we were hoping that he was the one who was about to redeem Israel." See, we talked about this. Besides all this, it's the third day since these things happened. Moreover, some women from our group astounded us. They arrived early at the tomb, and when they didn't find his body, they came and reported that they had seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they didn't see him. Jesus said to them, "How foolish you are, and how slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Wasn't it necessary for the Messiah to suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted for them the things concerning himself in all the scriptures. They came near the village where they were going, and he gave the impression that he was going farther. But they urged him, "Stay with us, because it's almost evening, and now the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. It was as he reclined at the table with them that he took the bread, blessed it, and broke it and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, but he disappeared from their sight. And they said to one another, weren't our hearts burning within us while he was talking with us on the road and explaining the scriptures to us? That very hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and those with them gathered together, who said, "The Lord has truly been raised and has appeared to Simon." Then they began to describe what had happened on the road and how he was made known to them in the breaking of the bread. As they were saying all these things, he himself stood in their midst and said, "Peace to you." But they were startled and terrified and thought they were seeing a ghost. "Why are you troubled?" he asked them. "And why do doubts arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see, because a ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have." Having said this, he showed them his hands and feet. But while they were still amazed and in disbelief because of their joy, he said to them, "Do you have anything here to eat?" So they gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate it in their presence. Again, something a ghost doesn't do. He told them, "These are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures. He also said to them, "This is what is written. The Messiah will suffer and rise from the dead the third day, and repentance for forgiveness of sins will be proclaimed in his name to all the nations, beginning at Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things. And look, I am sending you what my Father promised. As for you, stay in the city until you are empowered from on high." Then he led them out to the vicinity of Bethany. Lifting up his hands, he blessed them. While he was blessing them, he left them and was carried up into heaven. After worshiping him, they returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and they were continually in the temple praising God. Bringing up the rest of the notes here for you from the Reformation Study Bible. There are, again, quite a few. All right, there we go. That is all the reading, and that is all the text for today. Sorry, all the notes, and words are hard. Hi. Okay, so that is all for today. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.